Hey guys, these are the 6.5 notes, linear inequalities. Where's Mr. Link at? He's hiding back here somewhere. So, a linear equality, see look, double teaching right now, cross-curricular instruction. So, linear inequality has two variables, such as y is greater than or equal to x minus 3. And once again, we've dealt with these. So if you remember, our linear inequalities are like greater than, less than, greater than equal to, and less than and equal to. Okay? So this is just like we did in chapter 3. Remember, you had to do this, and then you had to decide circles opened or closed, and what direction it's pointing, and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to get into all those same things today, just we're going to be graphing on an actual graph instead of drawing our own. So, problem 1. This is probably the easiest part of the whole section. So, once again, hopefully pay attention. So, is the ordered pair a solution to y is greater than x minus 3? Okay? So here's my x, and here's my y. And so all we're simply going to do is plug in and say, yes, it's a solution, or no, it's not. So I have 2 is greater than 1 minus 3. Okay? So 2 is greater than negative 2. Is that a true statement? Then yes, that is a true statement. Okay? On B, we have x, we have y. We plug into the same exact thing. So is negative 7 greater than negative 3 minus 3? Well, is negative 7 greater than negative 6? Well, is that true? You have to ask yourself, no. No, it is not true. Okay? So once again, when we're identifying the solutions, all we are simply doing is just plugging in. Okay? We've been doing stuff like this the whole entire year. This should be super easy for you. Okay? If it works, like on A works, so the answer is yes. And if it's B and it doesn't work, the answer is no. So that's problem 1. Simple enough. Okay? Now we get into the fun stuff of problem 2. So on problem 2, graphing an inequality with two variables. Okay? So I have my y and I have my x. Just like before, just like we've been graphing the whole time, pretend it's an equal sign. Okay? So my y-intercept is going to be negative 2, and my slope is going to be 1, because my slope's in front of my x, and my y-intercept is down here at negative 2. But the only difference between this and what you guys have been doing, what we know how to do, is we have this graph instead of this graph. You guys remember this? We used to go to negative 2, draw our circle and all that. Okay? So my y-intercept is negative 2, so I go to my y-axis and I go down negative 2, and I make my dot. So that's where we start this graph. My slope is 1, so I go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and so forth. Okay. Here is where it gets a little bit different. Just like before, I look here at my sign. It's just greater than. It's just greater than. So that means our line is going to be dotted. And this is really hard to do, but this is a dotted line. Okay? And it's dotted similar to our circle. So remember with our circle, this would just be an open circle. So think of this as an open line. If I had my equal sign underneath it, I would close the line just like I would close the circle. Does that make sense? What is happening? Dear Lord. That's just a zoom in for you guys. So let me just draw that real quick again, because I don't know what happened. Okay, so here is my dotted line, and it's dotted because this is just greater than. So it's just an open circle or an open line. Okay? Now we got to shade. So remember how on chapter 3 we used to do this, and then it would be here at negative 2, open circle, and then we would shade to the right because it's pointed that way. Okay? Since we're not on a flat graph, since we're on an actual coordinate plane, we need to do what's called the test point. I always pick 0, 0. That's the easiest point for me. Okay? So let me change my color here. And 0, 0. That is my test point. So my test point is 0. And just like we did up here, I'm going to plug 0, 0 in to my equation. So y, well y is 0. Is 0 greater than 0 minus 2? So is 0 greater than negative 2? Well, that answer is Yes. So if the answer is yes, I want to shade towards 0, 0. Okay? So I shade this in here. Okay? And that's what my graph looks like. If the answer was no, if instead of yes, I had no, I would shade away from that point, if that makes any sense. So let's do a couple more just to really see what we're going on here. So on 2, I've got a y-intercept. This is the same exact graph, isn't it? Except this is different. So my y-intercept is -1, so I start here at -1. And my slope is 1. So 1, 2, and here we are. Okay. Now I look at my sign here, and it's less than or equal to. So it's got the equal to sign, which means we draw a straight, solid line. Okay. So once again, if the sign has that little line under it, okay, if you see the solid line underneath it, draw a solid line. If there's no solid line, we draw a dotted line. Okay. Now I need to shade. So I'm going to pick a new color, and let's go with this color. And so my test point I'm going to pick is 0, 0. I pick 0, 0 because it's the easiest. You could pick any point on the graph you possibly wanted to. So I have 0, 0. So I plug these in. Here's my x, here's my y. So is 0 less than or equal to 0 minus 1? Well, is 0 less than or equal to -1? So is that true? Ask yourself, is that a true statement? Is 0 less than -1? Well, no, it's not. Okay, this is a false statement. So if it's no, I want to shade away from 0, 0. 0, 0 is not a point. It does not work. See, no. So I don't want to include it in my range of answers. So all my answers are down here in this lower section. Okay, and what that means is any point you pick down here in this green section, any point that I'm coloring in right now, if you plugged into this equation, would work. All of these points up here, none of these work. Okay, so everything below my line would be yes, everything above my line would be no. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll call it a day. So my y-intercept is -5. I go down 5, and I make my dot. Okay. Now my slope is 5, so I go up 5 over 1, up 5 over 1, and then finally up 5 over 1. Okay. Then I look at my sign. It's just less than. It's open circle, right? So open circle means open line. So we have our dotted line here. Okay. So no, I'm making all kind of mess here. So now I want to pick my test point. I'm going to once again choose 0, 0 because it's the easiest point for me. 0 is an easy number for me. So 0, 0. Okay, what is that? 0, 0. So I plug those in. Here's my x, here's my y. So it's 0 less than 5 times 0 minus 5. So 5 is less than 5 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 5 is -5. Okay, so once you reach this point, and this is probably the toughest point of the whole thing. I know we know how to graph. I know we know how to draw lines. I know we know how to pick 0, 0. This right here is the toughest part, I would say. Is this true? Is 0 less than -5? Well, no, it's not. Okay, and no, it's not means I do not want to include 0, 0 in my answer. So I want to include everything on the other side of 0, 0. Okay, all these over here, away from 0, 0. 0, 0 is on this side of the line. We don't want these answers. We want all of these answers over here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up right here. We'll talk about it on, you guys will see this today, so we'll talk about this on Tuesday, and then we'll do problem 3 in class, and then we'll do our worksheet, okay? So hopefully, once again, if you have questions, circle them, ask, write a note if you're confused about something, okay? Have a good rest of your evening.